Welcome to Horror Shuffle.
Hi, I'm Ryan. Welcome to episode 7 of the Horror Shuffle, a podcast for people like me who love horror movies. I have been a lover of horror movies ever since I was a kid. And I remember one of the first horror movies that I really fell in love with is Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3. We got the VHS tape at a discount price from our local video rental place, Tape Deck, because they would rent the movies out, and then when new ones would come in, they would sell the old ones, previously viewed tapes. Like Blockbuster did the same thing. It's where I got a bunch of my DVDs from. But yeah, we got a bunch of VHS tapes from there, and I know that was one of them. And I remember when we bought it, I couldn't wait to get home to watch it, even though I'd seen it. But yeah, the cover of that is just so iconic. The Dream Warriors. And recently I ordered like a silk screening print. It's like a poster of that movie, and I just got it in the mail recently, so that's hanging up on my wall right now, and it looks great there, along with my original Friday the 13th poster, or it's like a 3D pop art thing. I forget what brand it is. I don't know if it's a McFarlane thing. I'm not sure. I could get up and go and look, but I don't really want to. So we'll just leave it at it's a Friday the 13th like 3D poster kind of. And it's very cool. My friend Clayton got it to me. Thanks, Clayton. All right. So this episode is on the movie Duel, Steven Spielberg's first movie. And as always, I just want to say that I assume that if you're listening to this, you have seen the movie or you don't care about spoilers. If you do, I highly recommend you watch the movie first. All right, let's get into it. So this movie is a little bit different than the others that I have covered so far, like, say, The Mutilator. It's not a movie you'd typically find in the horror movie section, but there are horror elements, and I really like this movie, so I wanted to include it on the list, and I'm happy to talk about it. I think I first saw this movie in college. I believe I maybe rented it from Third Street Video, or possibly Family Video, and yeah, I really liked it. So yeah, as I said, the movie was directed by Steven Spielberg, and it was written by Richard Matheson, who was a writer for The Twilight Zone. He wrote 14 episodes, and 2 episodes were based on short stories of his. A couple other movies based on his works are The Last Man on Earth with Vincent Price, also remade as The Omega Man, and I Am Legend with Will Smith. And he also, the movie Stir of Echoes is based on a story of his. So, as I said, this was Steven Spielberg's very first movie. Prior to this, he directed some television series episodes, such as Marcus Welby, Night Gallery, the very first episode of Columbo, and just before this movie, he directed an episode of Owen Marshall, Counselor at Law, which that episode features Lou Frizzell, who played the bus driver in this movie. He also did some short films, one of which was called Amblin, which of course he used for the name for his production company, Amblin Entertainment. And that short film featured a woman named Pamela McMyler, who played Laurie's mother in a flashback in Halloween 2. The original Halloween 2, I should add. Yeah, it's a fun movie, so let's drive on into the movie. So we start with a car engine starting, which you actually heard at the beginning a little while ago, And from the vehicle's POV, we see that it's leaving a garage and drives through the city of Los Angeles, and then eventually through the desert. We then leave the POV shot as we, the audience, seem to get stuck behind a barbed wire fence. We see the car, which is a red Plymouth Valiant, traveling down the highway. Now, I drove out to Los Angeles from Michigan, and I did think of this movie a lot while I was driving through the desert. The first shot of the driver, played by Dennis Weaver, is in the rear view mirror, and it's just his eyes. Dennis Weaver is best known for portraying Chester Good on Gunsmoke and McCloud in the series McCloud for 7 seasons. He was also in the Twilight Zone episode Shadow Play, as well as another movie that I will cover sometime called What's the Matter with Helen? I've never seen it, but it sounds interesting. So Dennis Weaver's character is a businessman named David Mann. And as he's driving, he finds himself behind a big, dirty 1955 Peterbilt 281 tanker truck, which, like the James Woods character in Cat's Eye from the previous episode, is emitting lots of smoke, causing Mr. Mann to cough. The camera work in this scene is great. It goes up past the side of the truck and then to the front of the truck. Even if you know nothing about this movie, I think at this point you get a sense of danger from this truck. Mr. Mann puts his turn signal on, which some people in 2024 still don't know how to do, and he passes the truck. As he continues down the road, the truck passes him up and gets in front of him and then slows down, which is understandably irritating for Mr. Mann. I can't help but think of Misery when I keep wanting to say, Mr. Mann. I imagine most people in here have been in a similar situation. But being a movie, you get the sense that this is a little more than just some idiot driver or prank. So, Mr. Mann passes the truck again, and as he does, we get a brief and blurry glimpse of the driver of the truck. Of course, I paused it to try to see him, and yeah, he's blurry. I almost imagine him always looking like that, the blurry man. That's kind of a creepy idea. As I paused it, it made me think of when I paused Friday the 13th trying to see Mrs. Voorhees driving the Jeep, knowing full well it wasn't going to actually be Betsy Palmer driving it because she wasn't even on set then. Anyway, as Mr. Mann passes the truck honks its horn. Rev horn! Sorry, that's a reference to the previous episode on Cat's Eye. Okay, so Mr. Mann gets into the radio program that he's listening to, and where a guy talks about playing meat as a musical instrument, and then he stops at a gas station, and the truck pulls in also, parking next to him, and he just sits there. A gas station attendant cleans his windows, obstructing the view. Mr. Mann tells him to fill the car with ethanol. Then it appears the driver is no longer in the truck, and we see a pair of feet on the other side of his truck. A pair of brown cowboy boots and dirty dungarees. The gas station attendant checks under his hood and recommends he gets a new radiator hose, but Mr. Mann declines, and I don't think I would have. Driving through the desert, one could probably make a killing as an unscrupulous mechanic at a place like this. Because as Mr. Mann figures that he's just, trying to swindle him and tell him, the old dirty mechanic trick of, oh, you need this, But David declines. But yeah, I don't think I would have, especially in the desert. We get another view of the truck driver's legs behind his, or maybe another truck, I'm not sure. As the attendant gives Mr. Mann change to use the phone, the truck driver honks his horn, and the attendant tells him he'll be right with him. Mr. Mann calls Mrs. Mann, played by Jacqueline Scott, who was in an episode of The Twilight Zone called The Parallel. He apologizes to her for not doing anything about another guy aggressively coming onto her the previous night at a party. We also see their two young boys playing with a cool-looking robot toy. It's funny, while he's on the phone, we get shots of him through a window on a laundromat dryer door as a woman takes clothes out of the dryer. I tried looking up this robot, but I couldn't find it. Yeah, it's a cool-looking robot. When Mr. Man gets back in his car, the truck driver sounds his horn again, and the attendant again says he'll be right with him in a second. Mr. Man leaves and continues on down the highway. I feel like if this took place and was made several years later, he'd be listening to the Eagles as he's driving. And as he's driving, sure as shit, the big tanker truck is all of a sudden right on his ass. Mr. Man speeds up, and so does the truck. Life in the fast lane. Then Mr. Man, you know what? I feel like we've gotten to know him a little. I'm going to call him David from now on. So David then waves the truck driver to pass him, and it does, but then it slows down again when it gets in front of him. David tries to pass again, and the truck swerves into the passing lane to prevent him from doing so. And David says,
"Oh, boy, you're beautiful."
He tries to pass again, and the same thing. The truck driver is clearly toying with him. David honks his horn and tries again. The driver won't let him. Or will he? David sees the truck driver stick his arm out through the window and wave for him to pass. So David starts to pass and is nearly hit head on by another vehicle. He swerves and almost spins out of control. So the truck driver pretty much tried to kill him. So yeah, he almost died in a car accident very similar to Hollywood legend James Dean. After another attempt or two to pass, David speeds up and goes off-road, and David, my man, zooms ahead past the truck and gets back on the road. David laughs and slaps the steering wheel, very pleased with himself, probably feels like he could take the devil. He seems to be relieved, turns the radio on, and just tries to enjoy the ride. That passes quickly, however, because he looks in the rearview mirror and the truck is catching up to him incredibly fast. So before he was thrilled with his actions of overtaking the truck, now, after the thrill is gone, he's got to be feeling pretty uneasy now. He speeds up, but so does the truck. They're going really fast now. I'm not sure how fast, but it's much faster than old 55. Are these references to Eagles songs getting irritating? Sorry, but you'll just have to get over it. David starts to lose control of his car again, but still continues speeding up because the truck is catching up to him and actually bumps into him, honking the horn. I love that we never really see the driver. We can imagine what he looks like, but we never see him. I kind of picture him being like the Cook character in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, just laughing maniacally as he does this. The truck rams into David again, and David is panicky and doesn't know what to do. He's going close to 100 miles per hour, and the truck is still right up on him. David skids off the road, nearly hitting some parked vehicles, and slams into a big wooden fence. So now he's outriding fences. An older man comes... Oh boy. Sorry. An older man comes over to see if he's okay, and David says his neck hurts, and the old man tells him that he probably has whiplash. David tells him about the truck driver and how the driver tried to kill him. He then goes out and heads to Chuck's Cafe, which he had seen a sign advertising earlier. He uses the restroom to splash water on his face and just kind of calm down, and we hear his internal thoughts saying it was a nightmare, but now it's over. But is it true? He goes back through the cafe and he sees the big tanker truck parked outside. He sits down at a table and starts looking over at all the other customers, knowing one of them is probably the driver. Now, what's great about this scene is several of the people look over at him, and they all seem to be wearing jeans and the same kind of cowboy boots as he saw on the driver at the service station earlier. It kind of reminds me of I Know What You Did Last Summer and Urban Legend, like in I Know What You Did Last Summer, where there's just a bunch of people wearing the same type of rain slicker as the killer, and same thing in Urban Legend. A lot of people are wearing like the thick, heavy, dark winter jacket that the killer wears with the zipped up hoodie. Of course, this is a little more believable in this situation. He orders a cheese sandwich on rye, and after taking a drink of water, he asks if he could get another glass of water, obviously thirsty, probably feels like he could chug all night. He also asks for an aspirin. He's got a headache tonight. Oh, so close. As he waits for his order, he goes over the situation in his head, checking out the potential suspects in the cafe, who in turn keep glancing at him as well, probably wondering who's this new kid in town. He thinks that even if he'd left right now and got a head start, the truck would catch up and calls it a souped-up diesel.
He's got some souped-up diesel.
He starts kind of panicking, and he actually says,
Take it easy.
not once, but twice.
Just take it easy.
He imagines going up to different guys at the bar or counter, but then his food comes, and he considers calling the police, but doesn't feel that would help. Then, one of the guys at the counter leaves and is walking toward the tanker truck, even touches it, but then leaves in a regular pickup truck. In a way, this scene in the cafe kind of reminds me of The Thing. Kind of like, who can he trust? You know, who's the driver? Like, in The Thing, who is the thing? But in this one of the guys in the diner is the driver. As David looks around, he notices another guy in there and is pretty sure that he is the truck driver. And this guy that he notices is played by Gene Dynarski, who played Izzy Mandelbaum Jr. in 2 episodes of Seinfeld. David nervously makes his way toward the guy and tells him to just cut it out, and accuses him of trying to kill him, and the guy tells him that he needs help. David slaps the sandwich out of his hand,
It's go time.
and the guy hits him in the stomach and throws him onto the pool table. The cafe owner, presumably Chuck, breaks them up and the guy leaves, and not in the tanker truck, so it wasn't even the right guy. David considers what to do now when suddenly he hears the tanker truck start and then start driving away. David runs outside and chases the truck, but it's already gone, way down the road. So after that, the long run, he heads back to the sad cafe to eat his lunch all by himself. Actually, not really. He gets back in his car and continues on his way, probably thinking he's safe now. Eventually, David encounters a school bus that has overheated. There are a group of children who cheer when he arrives, and the bus driver asks if David will try to push it with his car to get it going. He reluctantly agrees and starts trying to push it, and as many kids as will fit are watching from the back of the bus, making faces at him. Things like this definitely make for excitement when you're a kid. It doesn't really work, and the front of the bus, or the front of David's car, gets stuck under the bus and he can't get loose, and suddenly the tanker truck appears. It just kind of idles near the end of a tunnel, then starts heading toward them. David yells for the kids to get back on the bus, then has the bus driver try to back up his car by throwing the driver into his car, while he jumps on the hood to get it unstuck, which eventually works. Then David jumps in his car and drives away as the tanker truck goes and pushes the school bus and gets it moving again, also making this tanker truck driver look like a hero and David look crazy. Thankfully, the school children are on the move again, so they don't have to learn to be still. David is stopped at some train tracks where apparently a train leaves here this morning. David sits waiting for the train to pass, glancing at his watch, thinking about how late he is because of all this wasted time. Suddenly his car jerks forward. The tanker truck is behind him, trying to push him into the train. He hits the brakes, I think probably throws the car in reverse also, and avoids getting pushed into the train. As soon as the train is passed, David floors it, but gets stuck on a little sandhill. Surprisingly, the truck goes on ahead and sounds its horn as it goes. David backs up and gets back on the road again. Now, I know that's not the Eagles. It's Canned Heat. Or Bob Dylan. Or, of course, Willie. Anyway, he drives slower, probably hoping to distance himself from the psychotic truck driver. But as he's getting up over a hill, he sees the truck parked in the right lane, waiting for him, and then starts moving slowly as he gets closer, and now he just finds himself behind the truck again. But then there's a gas station, like a last chance or last resort type of gas station, but it's called Sally's Snakeorama Station. David pulls in and parks next to the pumps, and the tanker truck stops on the side of the road a little ways past the station. There's a wagon advertising Dr. Stringfellow's Rejuvenator Medicine Show, which makes me think of the great band Dr. Hook and the Medicine Show. David gets out and is met outside the gas station by, I guess, Sally, who tells him where her phone is and tells him to take a look at her snakes.
Take a look at my snakes if you have time.
This woman is played by Lucille Benson, who also plays Mrs. Elrod in Halloween 2. She's the woman making a sandwich for her husband and discovers her knife has been stolen by Michael Myers at the beginning. She also played Roscoe P. Coltrane's mother in an episode of The Dukes of Hazzard. Also, she is in Steven Spielberg's movie 1941 and playing basically the same character, and this same gas station is in that movie. I haven't seen it, but that's just what I read. David walks past Sally's rattlers in cages as he heads to use the phone. I feel like people back then especially would think this lady is like a Satanist or witch because she has snakes. David gets in the phone booth and calls the operator and asks for the police. It's at this point that director Steven Spielberg makes an unintentional cameo as you can see his reflection in the glass of the phone booth. As David is on the phone, we see the truck turn around and head straight for the phone booth, blaring its horn, and David jumps out just in time as it crashes into the phone booth, also knocking over some of the rattlesnake cages. It comes back, almost hitting David and knocking more cages down, and David is nearly bitten by one of the rattlesnakes, and he has to knock a tarantula off his pant leg. The truck comes back a third time, and David throws a cage at the truck. David gets back in his car and speeds away, leaving the witchy woman to gather back up her snakes, and suddenly, from out of nowhere, also a lizard. And also there's a coyote, I think, tied up as well. The truck goes after David, and he pulls off the road around a corner and hides. The truck goes by, and David says he isn't moving for at least an hour. He actually falls asleep and is awakened by a long train running. Wait a minute, that's Doobie Brothers. Sorry. He laughs, relieved, and then gets back on the road. Suddenly, he hits his brakes, ending up facing perpendicular to the road as he sees the truck, again, parked on the side of the road, laying in wait. A station wagon comes by, almost hitting David. David moves to the side of the road, watches the truck for a bit, and then gets back in his vehicle and peels out, trying to get past the truck, but it pulls ahead and blocks the road. David turns around and parks back on the side of the road, gets out of his vehicle, and walks toward the truck. The truck drives ahead and then stops, and David realizes this would continue. and he would never catch it. A car comes by with an elderly couple, but they're reluctant to help, and then notice the truck backing up towards them, and they back up and leave. A similar situation happens in Back to the Future when Marty gets to 1955 and he tries to stop an elderly couple, and they don't stop. They're reluctant to help him as well, just like in this movie. I used to think that maybe it was the same couple even. And also, I used to think that the lady said, "Don't stop or we'll die." And I've come to realize that I'm not the only one that used to think that. But yeah, it's not the same couple, and that's not what she says. She actually says, "Don't stop, Wilbur, don't." I should note that Spielberg did use this elderly couple in Close Encounters of the Third Kind in a helicopter scene. The truck stops right in front of David's car, then pulls ahead and waits on the side of the road. David gets back in his car, and the truck driver waves for him to pass him. David floors it and passes the truck, but of course the truck starts pursuit. David sees what appears to be a police car, but it's not. It's Greb Leap's Pest Control, with a big red bug on top of the car that made it appear to be a police car. And of course, Greb Leaps is Spielberg backwards. Now, Steven Spielberg was an executive producer for the film Arachnophobia, and I kind of wish that John Goodman's character's extermination business was Greb Leaps again, as a nod to this movie instead of Bugs Be Gone. Arachnophobia, that's another movie that I will cover eventually. Anyway, they continue the chase but reach a road closure and turn onto another road, possibly Seven Bridges Road, and they drive past a train. David apparently bit his lip or tongue as he wipes blood from his mouth. They get to another uphill grade and David gets ahead of the truck, but then his car starts to overheat. And now I'm sure he wishes he had his radiator hose fixed at the first gas station, or he did ask Sally at the Snakeorama to check the radiator hose, but I don't know if she actually did. The car slows down and the truck catches up. David just makes it over the uphill grade and puts it in neutral to coast down the hill. I love the shots of the truck in this scene as it's driving. David slams into the side of a rocky hill or mountain and gets away just as the truck comes. The car has cooled off from being in neutral, and David gets to a spot where he turns the car to face the truck and drives toward it, putting his briefcase down to hold the accelerator down, and jumps from the car just before the truck slams head-on into the car and then goes over a cliff in wonderful slow motion, making a roaring noise which Spielberg reused at the end of Jaws when the shark blows up. David celebrates his victory as the truck and driver lay dead in the big hole in the world. He probably wishes he had a bottle of tequila as the sun sets. Never mind. That's the end of the movie. We never really find out the motivation, like why did the driver do all this? And I don't know. I can't tell you why. In any case, I'm sure David will be happy to be back in the city. Okay, I've got one more, I swear. In the town of Dalton, Georgia, there used to be a drive-in theater called the Cherokee Drive-In. It closed in 1980, but if you went to see this movie at that theater in 1971, you could have said that you went to see Duel in Dalton. So, yeah, great movie, one of my favorites. Alright, now it's time for my anagram or word shuffle segment. If you've listened to my previous episodes, you know that I like to play around with anagrams and take names or words or phrases and rearrange the letters or shuffle the letters and come up with something amusing. And I've just found one for this episode. If you take the name Steven Spielberg and the name Dennis Weaver and rearrange the letters in both of those names, you can come up with Western driving enables peeves, which is kind of cool because it applies to this movie, of course. I was hoping to come up with at least one more, but I guess I know what'll happen. I'll probably come up with one after this Duel episode's up. Wait a minute. Duel episode's up. Hey, if you rearrange those letters, you get
Souped up diesel.
Now I'm going to ask myself these 7 questions that I always ask myself. The first question is, what character would you play or be cast as? Well, I mean, there's really not that many characters in the movie, and honestly, I would love a crack at David Mann. I would love to be driving around and being menaced by the oil tanker truck. And yeah, I think it would be a lot of fun, and it would give me a chance to say, he's got some souped up diesel. So yeah, that I think is the part that I would try out for. And if I don't get it, I wouldn't be able to be the driver because I'm not that good of a driver. I'm not terrible, I don't think, but yeah, I don't know. I think, let's see, who else? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe the bus driver or maybe the pest control guy. I could act scared when the when the vehicle comes towards me. That might be fun. So yeah, maybe the pest control guy. All right, the next question is, what is your favorite line in the movie? Well, a couple of lines jump into my mind. The first one is when David says to the truck, "Come on, you miserable fathead, get that fat-ass truck out of my way." I think I like that one. There's also a line, and it's a weird one, when he's listening to the radio, which I don't know, I didn't talk that much about the radio. He's listening to like a talk radio program, and there's a guy saying that he's like, "I play meat, beef, pork." And David laughs and says, "That's sick, man, that's sick." Because he plays it as an instrument. So yeah, that's that might be my favorite line. I play meat. Okay, the third question is, what is your favorite gag? Well, I guess it's got to be the pest control car looking like a police car, and of course, Greb leaps, the Spielberg backwards written on the car. The combination of the two, yeah, that's my favorite gag. And it works well, too, because when you're watching it, you think, oh, yes, a police car. But then, yeah, of course, right away, then you notice it's not, and you know, oh, shit. All right, the next question is, favorite kill? Well, that's a pretty easy one. It's the tanker truck / tanker driver. Yeah, I mean, that's really the only kill that, that's really the only answer. And it is done so well. So yeah, definitely the tanker truck / driver. Next question, what prop would you like to own from the movie? Well, I was thinking the pest control bug on top of the car. That would be kind of funny to put on my own vehicle. Not that I have a running vehicle right now, but either that or just like in the window or something. But I think it would be really cool, like if I had a property with enough room, it would be cool to have the tanker truck. I think, if I remember right, there's only one that exists now, because they had several for the movie, and the original one, of course, isn't the one that was in most shots isn't around anymore. Well, because I guess they trashed it. But there was one that they used that is still available and or available around. So I think it would be cool to have that like parked in your yard and just I don't know, grow like I don't know, grass around it or like make it into kind of like a big garden type of thing, which actually Dennis Weaver was like a very well-known environmentalist, so yeah, that seems like something he might have done, plant a bunch of wildflowers around it and on top of it or something. But yeah, I think that is the prop. All right, now which character should get a spin-off series or film? Well, I thought about this, and I think I'd have to say the Snakeorama woman, because I don't know, she just seems like a fascinating character. I don't know what the plot could be or anything, but maybe just point the camera at her and just end credits after in about an hour and a half, maybe, as people come and go, or I don't know. I imagine her snakes would be involved somehow, and that coyote. But yeah, I think that's going to be my pick for a spin-off series. Alright, and finally, the last question. Who would be cast in a remake? Well, there's a few options I have to play Mr. Man. One is Danny Pintaro, who played Tad, the little boy trapped with Dee Wallace's character, who played his mom, in Cujo, because he has experience acting in a vehicle, and of course he was really good as a kid. So yeah, that would be interesting. Another option I have is maybe Fred Savage. He just seems like he could be like a frustrated businessman. I don't know if I'm just thinking of that because of his show Working, maybe. I don't know. Another option is another sitcom star, Jaleel White, Urkel himself. I feel like he could play a frustrated businessman as well. I'm picturing the end of the movie now. Oh, God. I feel bad. Sorry, Jaleel, if somehow you're listening to this. No, I seriously would give him a chance. I feel like people are too quick to discount people. You know, it's like when Heath Ledger was announced as playing the Joker in The Dark Knight. I remember a lot of people saying, really, Heath Ledger? Like, I can't see that at all. And he was amazing in that. Or like Pulp Fiction with John Travolta, a lot of people probably thought, like, really? Vinny Saturday Night Fever Barbarino as like a killer? Or like, that doesn't make any sense to me at all. And he was great in that. So yeah, you know, I think people deserve a chance. I know the competition is pretty fierce in the acting community, Hollywood, but yeah, I think a lot of people don't get a chance to really, you know, do other things. And that's the fault of people like me doing shit like this. All right. Nevertheless, the person that I think I'm going to go with on this to be recast as David Mann is comedian John Oliver. I think, and I think it'd be fun or interesting if he like actually played himself, like maybe like when he first got to this country from England and like he had to drive across the country for some reason and ended up in a situation like this. I think he could play that really well. As I've said, like especially in the Cat's Eye episode, a lot of comedians are cast as menacing people, and it usually works out really well. So I think that would be a lot of fun. So yeah, John Oliver as Mr. David Mann. Okay, it's time to pick the next movie. I'm gonna roll or spin my picker wheel on pickerwheel.com. I've got over 300 movies listed on there, so let's see what we get here. All right, it's spinning, and again, I'm going to cover up the result with my hand. Reveal it one letter at a time. All right, here we go. The first letter is a K. K. I can't think of any movies that start with K. Oh, okay, I got one. I have an idea. I bet the second letter's I. Yep. Ooh, this could be a fun one. K-I. Kiss of the Spider Woman? I don't think I have that on here. Maybe I should. I don't know. K-I. Oh, Killer Workout? Alright, the third letter is L. Okay, so it is kill something. K-I-L. L. Kill. It could be Killer Workout. E-R. Oh, and I see there's a second row. Alright, I know what it is. I'm excited to do Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Holy shit.
Ah, man. That is definitely a personal favorite. Killer Clowns is playing on Tubi and also MGM, it looks like. Also, if what I say here, if things change, you can always go on IMDb and type in a movie and it'll tell you what it's playing on. Although it doesn't always list everything, I think. But sometimes, yeah, you can either rent it on YouTube or sometimes they're for free on YouTube, of course. But yeah, definitely do a search. If you have a smart TV, you can type in the title and look. It'll tell you where you can watch it on there also. Well, that about does it for this episode on Duel. Email me at horrorshufflepod@gmail.com with any questions or concerns or anything. Like, subscribe, review, and all that crap. I do have a Facebook page now and an Instagram page, so do a search for The Horror Shuffle and yeah, leave some comments and follow me on there. I also started a Discord, and yeah, I'd like to get people in there to talk about movies and stuff. Maybe meet some new people. People like me who love horror movies. And come back for the next episode on the Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Or it's not, it's just Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I don't know why I threw in the. Thank you so much for listening to this episode on The Duel. I'm the Ryan, and I'll be the right back one of these nights. David skids off the road, nearly hitting some parked vehicles, and slams into a fence. You know, a fence. God. As he waits for his order, he goes over to the station. No. What? He goes over the situation. Take two. Take two, yeah, more like 50. He did ask Sally at the Snakeorama to check his radiator hose, but yeah, I don't know if she actually did or not. It'd be funny if he lifted up the hood and she had mistakenly, like, put a snake in there instead of a radiator hose. That's so stupid. Oh god, it's 3:27 in the morning. It's at this point that you can... Oh shit, I blew my paper across the table. This chair. Reminds me of when I lived in the dorms in college.